And then I got the idea. I was like, are you an evil spirit? And the planchette just kind of moved. And it ended up landing on yes. Everybody got freaked out, and they took their hands off. I was the only one that didn't. And at that moment, one of my friends fell to the floor.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Odd Virginia. My name is Alex Koska. Happy to be here. Took me a little while longer to get this episode out than normally would have taken because I've been down in Natural Bridge, met Matthew Keene down there. You may remember him from a recent episode entitled I Escaped Hell and It Followed. Well, we went down to Natural Bridge together to check out a couple of their paranormal spots, and we put together a bit of a video on that. So if you're interested at all, keep an eye on our YouTube or Rumble channel. That will be coming down the pipe here shortly. And oh boy, Natural Bridge does have its great share of paranormal hotspots. Now, it wasn't a paranormal investigation per se. We just went down there to ask the locals, see what we could find out. And there's a good bit of information we gleaned, not surprisingly, considering the deep history that the Natural Bridge area has. But moving on from that, we have a very exciting episode tonight. My friend Thomas was able to share some of his stories with me, stories he has going back to his childhood about the shadow men, paranormal experiences he's had involving a Ouija board, and how some of these things may be affecting his daughter to this day. But I'm not going to tell you that whole story right now. I'm going to go ahead and let Thomas do that. Now, trying to keep the show as family-friendly as possible, I've cut out as much coarse language as I can. However, I couldn't cut out all of it without messing up the interview. So you are warned, there's still a little bit of that in there. This one is not for the kids. Now, if you want to share your story on Odd Virginia, go ahead and shoot me an email at oddvirginia@protonmail.com, because here at Odd Virginia,
we're ready to believe you!
So tonight on the show, we've got a friend of mine that I've worked with over the past about 1 year now, I think. Maybe even a little bit longer than that. His name is Thomas. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, man. I know that you have been out of work for the past little while due to an injury. I just want to say that we've been talking a little bit before this interview, and it's good to hear that you are doing well and are not dead.
Doing about the best I can anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen you since about October, and it's currently, as we're recording, it's the end of January, so glad to hear your voice again, dude. And if you wouldn't mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself before we begin with your experiences.
Well, I'm Thomas. A real big fan of everything spooky and creepy. I also have a plethora of reptiles in my home, and I'm 30 years old. Not much going on in my life. I mean, I have a great wife. I have a great kid. Other than that, everything's pretty normal.
Excellent. So you told me while we were at work one day, I randomly brought up the fact that I host a podcast, and you were like, yeah, you should have told me this a long time ago. I see shadow people.
Yeah.
You'll probably be the first person on here to have had like numerous experiences with shadow people. I've had now two myself. I actually just saw one a day or two ago in my house, in my bedroom, and I don't think it was a sleep paralysis experience, but it only lasted for like half a second, so I'm not really sure what that was.
Well, my first real encounter with like a shadow person would probably be when I was around the age of like 12 to 13. I was asleep in my bed, and most people will, like back in the day, they used to just put like box fans in their windows and whatnot.
Yeah.
It felt like I was awake, but I knew I kind of was asleep or in between. And I opened one eye and I looked out my window, and it was still pretty dark, but there was snow on the ground, so you could still kind of see like a silhouette of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like something was staring back at me, but it had no face. No face whatsoever.
How close was it to you?
Probably had to be a good 10 inches from my face.
Oh.
It, like, to the point where I felt like I could hear it breathing, and I couldn't move. I was shook, just completely terrified. I didn't know what to do. I lost the ability to just yell. If you've ever like been in that situation or know anything about that, where like you get into that sort of feeling, and it's just you want to let out something, and it's kind of like.
Mm-hmm. So that does sound like sleep paralysis, but were you trapped in your bed when that was happening, or were you able to get up, look around, move around?
It ended up, I sat there for what felt like an eternity, but had to be maybe the better part of about 10 to 20 minutes. And
Wow.
what I was staring at finally just walked away. And I finally got the power just to roll over. And I waited and waited and waited for like maybe an hour and a half before I got up and turned my light on and shined a flashlight outside. And there was just nothing there. I even went the extra mile and walked outside just to see if maybe somebody was standing there at my window, and there were no footprints. Because there was snow on the ground. Just nothing.
Yeah, that's the great thing about snow, is it's easy to track in the snow.
And being a 12, 13-year-old, you're just trying to process this. And it's like, well, this is my life. I'm just going to get haunted. Who knows? But I chalked it up to kind of like sleep paralysis. But as I got older, I still experience, even to this day, I still experience what it is. Like, I see just things just shifting out of the corner of my like peripheral. A great example of that would be, I was around 20 years old and I had stayed the night at a friend's house. We're in their basement. We just got done partying. And he had told me that he had some kind of weird demon thing in his house. He just wasn't sure about it. And I didn't believe him. I mean, I still believed in a lot of things spooky and creepy, but he kind of lies a little bit, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I let it
know
go.
People like that.
Yeah. But what had happened was he told me about it, and he says it's a little girl. And I was like, well, why would it be a little girl? He goes, well, malevolent spirits can take shape of anything and be anything. So I humored him with it, and I turned all the lights off in his basement, and everybody else was upstairs until two of the other patrons at the party came down, and they were like, what are you doing? And I had a video of this somewhere, and I don't know where it is. I think it's on an old phone. If I can find it, it'd be so amazing to have. I rolled a ball into their laundry room, and it rolled back to me.
Oh, you son of a gun.
And I was sitting there, and I was like, you guys want to play? And everyone got freaked out, ran upstairs, and I could hear him shouting and everything and yelling, and all of a sudden the laundry door closed shut, and the light had turned on, and I saw a shadow pass underneath the door, and it's like it walked outside, and I'm still sitting on the floor. I don't know what to do.
Now, when you say a shadow passed underneath the door, do you mean like you saw somebody's footsteps underneath the crack of the door, or it was like Peter Pan's shadow, how it sort of just moves on the floor and slithers out?
It was more of like, it was like one solid mass. So it's like just this black stripe that was like maybe 3 inches long, just moved past the door frame where I could see it in the light, like where it would look like somebody would stand. But you would know,
Yeah.
But if everyone's seen shadows before, you know, if you walk underneath the door, you see kind of like separate movements, but this was one whole fluid thing. It just whoosh.
One mass, not like 2 feet, is what you're saying.
Yeah, one whole black mass.
And did it scare you when it rolled the ball back out?
I got pretty terrified. I was still trying to process things, and I was like, well, if this is a little girl, maybe she just wants someone to play with.
Right. Yeah. And childhood, or child ghosts rather, in many stories seem to be extremely benign and do like to just do playful activity.
Because their lives were taken at an early stage, and they never got to experience play.
Right. When they were still sort of innocent, and they just want to have a chance to keep doing that. So do you believe that that was a demon, like your friend said, or was something more, or something less, rather, a little girl?
Well, I mean, I can't really say for sure because I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and lean towards the fact that it was maybe it was a little girl or a little boy, you know, um, just because I mean the ball rolled very slowly back to me. I mean, it plus the shadow being as small as it was. I mean, maybe it could have been something else, but I'm gonna go ahead and lean towards the that fact might have been a child.
And what did your friend say about, if anything, like what it does when he's around? Same sort of thing, or?
Uh, no, he actually told me that like he would have like little scratch marks on his ribs and stuff like that because he had a bedroom down there.
Hmm.
And he didn't really first start noticing anything until he said that he saw like this black shadow mass like pass the door frame and go off into the other room around the door. And he said he would pay it no mind and go back to sleep, and he'd wake up and he'd have like these three little claw marks on his ribs and stuff where it looked like somebody was trying to get his attention, like just digging on his shirt. So other than that, I mean, I'm still just going to go ahead and say maybe it's just a trapped little spirit. Can't really move on.
Yeah. And I also know what you mean about people who tend to exaggerate or lie about things just perhaps for attention or perhaps because they have some sort of psychological inclination to do so. And usually before I have someone on this show, I like to give them what is essentially a sniff test just to make sure that they're not absolutely nuts. And there have been people I've turned down before. But, sometimes they may have just been actually tormented and maybe crazy for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good possibility. I mean, weirder things have happened here in Virginia. I mean, I live in Stanton, and I've never really. I mean, the only weird thing that I've actually seen, because we have ghost tours here, which I've never really seen anything on the ghost tours. But I have been inside of the Desjardins Hospital that's down there near the Walmart and Sheets.
Oh, there are very few people who haven't been in there, but unfortunately, I'm one of those who have not.
Yeah, they have from the main hospital, they have like this, it's like a set of underground tunnels that actually still link around that area.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually pretty interesting. The way that, because that's the way that they would transfer all the patients and stuff. They would go underground and move them.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The only weird thing that I had happen to me when I went to Desjardins, what we thought was a spirit ended up being a squatter.
Okay.
Which is weird because the whole place is just full of asbestos.
Yeah, well, I don't think squatters care much, and we do have like a train system going right through town, so people are likely to be doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty close anyway, for the most part. But I do hear a lot of creepy things happen from the whole Desjardins Hospital and everything, because it was also a children's ward, and most of the children were tortured in that aspect back in the day. And it's nice to see that like common medicine has come so far, but honestly, I wouldn't blame the place if it was extremely haunted.
Yeah.
For the things that actually happened inside that hospital.
And if anyone here is interested in stories about the Desjardins Asylum or Western State Hospital, we actually have an episode on that. I don't remember what episode that was. It was probably before episode 10. It was called Tales from a Mental Hospital. My good friend Jeremy came on, and he had worked there for a good while and had to do checkups on the Desjardins facility because that was under the auspices of Western State Hospital, where he worked as a security officer.
That's pretty interesting.
Yes, in his story, he saw objects moving on their own within the facility, and that was because they were checking on a report of little kids going into the facilities, which there were none.
That's literally the whole premise of Desjardins. It's mostly just teenagers and stuff like that go in there, and it's the little kids and everything else that sit there and screw around with all the teenagers that are in there just trying to see what all's going on, and they don't understand. Because me and a couple buddies of mine, we actually walked through the entire field just to get to the hospital. We had parked our cars over at the Valley Mall when it was still standing. It is literally completely knocked down now. But
It's just Belk now.
yeah, it's just Belk. But we had walked like a good 3 miles to get to this place, and we pried open a window with where the boards were had boarded up. We had brought respirators and everything with us just to, I don't know about you, but asbestos poisoning is not really all that fun. So we actually get inside the hospital, and it's like time stood still. I still don't understand it, but it's almost like you can still hear faint whispers. It's sad because I'd like to think of myself as a nice, outgoing, kind of like sensitive kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was standing there, and it was in summer. It was like maybe 85 degrees outside, and it was like 11:30 at night. I'm standing there, and in this one room, there's like a chair with like this weird head strap thing to it, and there's tools on a bench that are just completely covered in dust. And I just started to cry. I got really sad. And my buddies are looking at me, they're like, dude, suck it up. And I'm like, dude, you don't feel this? I got to get out of here. And it's like as soon as I walked out of the room, it's like a weight lifted off my shoulders, and I was okay again. I cleaned myself off. I was going to try to walk back in, and that's when I heard the whispers. And they were faint, but it sounded like it was like right in your ear. Like I was wearing just a regular earbud, and it was just turned down almost to the lowest volume you can get it.
Okay.
And I just got chills. It got super cold, and I had walked back out of the room. I'd walked into this different room, and there was a mirror there. I looked into the mirror, and I saw my buddies and stuff, and I just kind of looked down at my feet for a second, and then I looked back up, and there was an adjacent room behind me. I looked through the mirror, and there's like this form that's kind of like peeking around the door frame. And I saw it, and I froze. And I called to my friends, and I was like, hey guys, you got to check this out. Come back here. And as soon as one of them started coming around, he totally missed what was going on in the doorway, and I seen his head snap around, and I saw the other one snap away. And I turned around real quick, and I went into that room, and I started shining flashlights. I started looking, and I was like, y'all, we got to get the hell out of here. I don't like it. So we left that night.
Did they rag on you for that?
A little bit. But
Yeah.
I had a
guys will
pretty
do
good
that.
reason.
So when you said you saw a form, considering it was more than likely a ghostly form that you did see, did it look shadowy, or did it look light and misty, or was it glowing? Because you hear all these different descriptions of what ghosts, or at least how they can appear.
So the only way that I can describe it is like if someone took black construction paper and they were holding it around the door.
Okay.
Because there were still cars coming down the road, and headlights do still hit that place. And when the lights would shine through, the lights wouldn't shine through the mass. It would just go like, it would be a great indication that, hey, something is there.
Okay, so yeah, if you're driving down like Frontier Drive or along Route 50, your lights would definitely hit that area. And what you're saying basically is the thing entirely blocked out that light.
Yeah. I still don't. I don't get it. I really don't. But everything in this world is totally unexplainable. And I mean, I am a firm believer. I am now, anyway. I do believe that there is like an astral plane that some malevolent and some benevolent spirits walk. Some days you just can't really tell the difference because they hide it very well.
I completely agree. There are, in perpetuity, if you go back in history, legends of trickster spirits, things that try to seem like what they are not.
Yeah. Kind of like people that play with Ouija boards and summon weird demons everything else in between. And
Yeah, you couldn't pay me to touch one of those.
oh, I've used one. It's real.
You have a story there?
Well, it's kind of a short story. We were in Clifton Forge. And if you don't know, there is a house out there that shot the movie. It's called Mama.
Okay.
It's a horror movie. They shot a portion of it out there at that house. And my buddies and I thought it was going to be a fantastic idea. I'm like, hey, let's go summon the Mama spirit. Because we had another friend that actually lived out towards Clifton Forge, and he was actually a short drive away from it. So we all piled in the car, went to go meet him, and then he drove us over to the house. Just the completest rundown thing you'd ever seen in your entire life. And we were all sitting right there in like what was the living room, and there was a table there. So we had set the board down, and I told one of my buddies, and I was like, "You know how to use this?" And he goes, "No." And I was like, "No, we're not using it." And he goes, "Why not?" And I was like, "Because I'm not going to sit here, open a portal, and then we're just not going to know how to close it."
I would say that's wise. So I'm guessing that you guys never used it.
Yeah, I'd asked him if he was familiar with everything, and he said no. And I spent a better part of a good couple minutes explaining how everything worked and what to do, and to just don't take your hands off the planchette. And when we're done with everything, we're going to tell it goodbye.
And that is to close the portal as it reads in the instructions.
That's right.
And I want everyone to be totally familiar that this is a copywritten Hasbro product, at least at this point.
It's like 3 and up, or more, or 4 and up, something like that.
Yeah, it's really weird how that works.
Hasbro doing great things. So we all had our hands on the planchette. We were asking, like, your basic bread and butter questions, like, who are you? Are you here with us right now? What's your name? How old you are? That kind of deal. And then one of my buddies just gets this thing. He goes, "Are you hot?" And I was like, "I'm not going to ask a spirit if it's hot." He goes, "Well, I don't care if you are. I am." I was like, "Okay." And then he ends up getting like this itch. And I was like, "Scratch it with your shoulder. Don't take your hands off the planchette." And then after he had asked that question, he ended up sneezing and took his hands off the planchette. And his chair broke. So we chalked that up to, well, we found some furniture in the house to sit at, and we chalked it up to just being old.
Yeah.
Until it went on a little bit more. And we had checked on him because he just fallen down. He kind of hurt himself a little bit, but we picked him back up and he was fine. But when we were doing it, I still had my hands on it, and 2 other my friends had hands on it, and it started to move. And we did that thing where it was like, "Are you moving it?" "I'm not moving it." "No, I think you're moving it." "Well, no, I'm not moving it." So it started to move, and it moved to no. I guess she's not hot. It was a bummer. Bum rap. Not a hot spirit. Sucks.
Not like you could see her anyway.
Yeah, not like I could see it anyway. But that's going to come. We'll get to that here in a second. We ended up asking it if it was a male, and it said no. Planchette had moved again, and so we asked if it was female, and it said yes. And then I got the idea. I was like, "Are you an evil spirit?" And the planchette just kind of moved. And it ended up landing on yes. Everybody got freaked out, and they took their hands off. I was the only one that didn't. And at that moment, one of my friends fell through the floor.
Whoa!
I didn't know what to think about it.
Wait, hold on, Thomas. Were you on the ground floor when this happened and he fell into the basement, or were you on an upper level?
We were on the ground floor, and he fell into the basement.
Holy crap!
I didn't know what to. No one knew what to do. He just kind of lay there, and we could see him. We could see him laying down there, like we had lights and shit. We were just we could see him down there. We kept asking him, it was like, hey, bro, you okay? Are you all right? Say something. And he ended up coming to after like a minute, and he goes, yeah, I'm good. I don't know what's going on, though. And then just out of nowhere, the whole Ouija board on the table just slides off the table. No explanation about it. And it got super, like, just frigid cold. And we're trying to help my buddy out of the basement. We ended up going outside, going to get him. And I was like, guys, we still have that thing open. We have to close it. And two of them were like, well, we're not doing that. So they piled into the car and sat there. And I was like, you guys are stupid.
Yeah.
So I went in with 3 other people, and I was like, guys, we have to close it. We have to tell it goodbye. And then at least 3 times. And I put my hands on the planchette. Everyone's got their hands on the planchette after we picked it up off the floor. And we're like, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And we moved the planchette to goodbye. And I folded everything up. I stuck the planchette in my pocket. And we're walking outside, and just we turned around, and there was like this mist just hit us in the face. So we're walking out to my buddy's truck, and we're getting ready to leave, and one of his tires pop. He chalked it up to dumb luck. We didn't know what was going on. And
Doesn't sound like luck.
like dumb luck. And
I may not be familiar with the term. Does that mean bad luck?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, in my perspective, it is anyway. But he ended up backing over a whole board of nails. And he's sitting there, and he's got his jack out, and they're jacking the truck up. They're getting the tire changed. And I just got this unnerving feeling about me. And I just stood there, and I stared at the house for a second. And I was like, guys, I think we really fucked up. And he goes, how do you figure that? And there is a really tall tree that stands near that house. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the house, and I was like, I really think we got to do something here. I mean, I don't know what to do. You just get into that situation where, like, you feel like you have all the answers, but there's just so many more questions than there are answers. And as I'm getting ready to walk back towards the truck, a branch from the tree falls down. Just completely just hits the walkway where we were all standing just like a couple seconds ago, after I just made the choice to walk back to the truck. And I was like, guys, we got to go. This is not cool. We have to leave. So we get the new tire on. We're backing out, and a buddy of mine goes, dude, fucking look. And he points up to one of the windows in the house, and there's just this mask, because he has his flashlight on it, and it's part black and part white, and it's like pressed against the glass, like some creepy face has its hands cupped on the glass, and it's staring at you, and you know it's staring at you. And I was like, y'all floor it. And we make it back to his house safely, and I tell them, I was like, listen, find me a bucket or a barrel. I don't care what it is, because we're out in the country. I was like, I know you got some kind of drum barrel somewhere. He goes, yeah, I got one. So I throw the Ouija board and the planchette in there, and I set it on fire.
Yeah.
And the only thing one of my friends is worried about, he goes, dude, I spent $35 on that. And I was like, that's because you're stupid. That's what you get. You just wasted $35. So about a week goes by, and no one really pays it any attention. I go back. We end up going back out there for a party and shit. And
wait, back to Mama's house?
No, back out to my buddy's house out near
okay.
It's near the house, but he's a good ways away from it. I go back and I look in the barrel. All the ashes and shit are good, except the planchette's fine.
No scorch marks.
Nothing. I mean, it was a little black from the ashes, but the planchette was plastic. Plastic.
Yeah, they're like plastic and glass, right?
Yeah, like plastic and like an acrylic thing.
Okay.
I didn't know what to think.
Yeah, easily burnable. That would melt.
The planchette was totally fine. I figured there was something else in the barrel. Maybe it just didn't get heated up enough or something. And I picked up the planchette and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. And I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I held it up and I was looking through the glass. And it's like I could see something walking like in my buddy's wood line. I dropped it. I lit a whole new fire. And I stood there and I watched it burn. And I'm not a religious person by any means, but I do know enough because I grew up. I did grow up Catholic. Thank my grandparents for that. They knew some stuff, and so I ended up saying a little thing for me and stood there, and I kept looking out into the tree line where I saw everything. There was just nothing there, and this was in the middle of the day.
So what was it that you did see walking?
Just this white silhouette.
Okay.
Just beyond the trees.
Freaky.
Not like it was moving, kind of like it was lurking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you and I, Thomas, are about the same age, where we grew up at a time where there was a very kind of a religious authoritarian right in prominence, and everything was bad that we heard of. Drugs are bad. Video games are bad. Tabletop role-playing games are bad.
Mr. Michaels with the white van is bad.
It's just all, yeah, it's just all bad, and we had to watch out for every single thing, like on a spiritual and physical level almost. And so it was easy for you and I to grow up and just be like, haha, no big deal. You know, someone was misled. People are making a stink out of nothing. But there is obviously some truth to that as we've grown up, yeah?
Mm-hmm, definitely. Most definitely. I mean, there's a lot of things in this world that make sense, but seeing is believing, but mostly not. Like, seeing it isn't really all that believable at that point. I mean, because you don't really know what you're looking at. Your brain tries to process it, and you just can't. It's totally unexplainable. It's like the lights over Phoenix, or like Bigfoot, or that kind of deal.
Yeah. These are some of the biggest mysteries that have ever been witnessed, and we still don't know what they are. But we do know that there are things out there that are malignant and evil that come and go through some sort of veil, I guess, that we aren't totally aware of in our physical mortal shells that we wear.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that much can, for anyone who's witnessed it, can certainly be addressed.
I still have nightmares about that too. To this day, I still have nightmares.
I'm not surprised. That's a traumatizing experience.
It's horrible, especially at 30. I feel like I'm having a heart attack.
You know, that story that you told me about Mama's house. Have you ever heard of a book series called The Series of Unfortunate Events?
Yeah.
It sounds like everything was way too, well, it wasn't coincidental is basically what I'm saying. There was something going on there.
I know about the Series of Unfortunate Events, but if you've ever have a chance and sit down and watch the movie Mama, or if you've ever heard of it, I guess. You've never heard of it?
I actually have not, no.
If you ever get a chance, watch it. It's actually a really great horror movie.
I'll watch it tonight.
Go ahead. It's not bad. I mean, I'd give it a watch. It's pretty creepy, but I wouldn't really chalk it up as to coincidental, really. I'm not a big book reader.
No, it wasn't. I'm not a big book reader myself, and I've never read The Series of Unfortunate Events. I think that was written by Terry Pratchett. Let me look that up.
But so that I have no idea. Wait, no, no.
Oh, Lemony Snicket. Yep. That's right. You're right. Terry Pratchett's better.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm getting us off topic. So have you had anything? How long ago was that happened?
I just hit 21. Probably about 9, maybe almost 10 years ago now.
Has anything happened since then? It's freaked you out?
Actually, this is most recent. Uh, actually happened about 2 weeks ago. I have a daughter. She's 2, about to turn 3.
I don't like where this is going. I do not like where this is going.
And it's in my own house. We have it's like a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. You walk through the front door, it's the living room, walk through like this little diamond kind of shaped hallway. To your right's our bedroom. Over here to the close right is the bedroom, far right's the bathroom. To the left is the kitchen, and then another doorway which leads into my reptile room. And then up the stairs is her room. There's 2 separate rooms. She has a playroom, and then on the other side of it is her room. When we moved in, we kind of had like this weird, funny thing, me and my fiance, or my wife. We had this weird thing going where it's like, what if our house is haunted? That's going to be creepy as hell. Because I've seen enough in my lifetime to be like, well, I can't explain it, but it's got to be real. So I just joke about it a little bit, and if it ends up being real, you try to take the steps to make it not real. So my daughter doesn't really talk yet. She just doesn't want to. I mean, she can talk, but she prefers not to. She likes to point. And I was about 2:30. She was feeling kind of tired. So it's about her nap time. I was getting ready to take her upstairs. I was holding her, and she kept pointing to the top of the stairs. And there weren't any lights on up there. And I kept looking up at the top of the stairs, and I was like, what are you pointing at? And she just kept pointing. And then I was getting ready to walk up the stairs, and she would grip my shirt, and then she said no. Like a real emphatic no. And I was like, well, baby, you got to take a nap. I mean, I can let you take a nap down here. And she goes, it kept pointing up at the top of the stairs, kept saying no. So I took her upstairs anyway just to see what was up, and I let her down on the ground. And I was like, can you show me what the no is? And then she pointed into her room. Her room's completely dark. And I mean, there's a little light coming through, but we have like a blackout curtain up there, so it blocks out most of the sun. And I walk into her room, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Everything's fine. Nothing out of the ordinary, just normal kids' room. I throw on a Disney movie, and I left her up there. She ended up crawling into bed, and she was taking a nap. When I tell you that I shit my pants, because we have a baby monitor up there, I kept hearing what I thought was her, just jabbering, doing the jabber thing that most toddlers do. I looked there, and she's dead asleep until I saw on the camera the shadow just kind of move away from her. I lost my shit. I ran upstairs, and all of her toys, she never even touched them. They were all scattered everywhere.
Wow.
I didn't know what to think. I haven't even told my wife about this yet. Because I don't want her to freak out. And then she's like, oh, we got to go get another house. And that's like, oh, great. It's just more money I got to spend.
Yeah.
So I ended up monitoring it closely. I kept the baby monitor with me, and I didn't take my eyes off of it. And I turned like a nightlight on up there for her, and I stuck it next to her in an outlet. And everything seemed to be fine for at least until around 4 o'clock when my wife was getting off work. So she had called me. She goes, everything going okay? And I was like, yeah, everything's fine for the most part. And she goes, what's wrong? And I was like, no, nothing. I just think we have visitors. She goes, visitors? And I was like, yeah, we had weird visitors, I guess. And she didn't really pay much attention. She started telling me about her day. And I had walked.
She really didn't question that?
No, just seemed like it was a normal thing. Because sometimes we'll have like those weird Jehovah's Witness people.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, I like messing with them. But beside the point, I'd walked upstairs and I have her on the phone with me, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching my daughter sleep, and I go to turn, and it's it felt like something had like gently put its hand on my shoulder when I had turned around, and when I walked forward, it was just freezing cold, and I was like, "Eeh, the hell was that?" And I walked back downstairs and I look at the thermometer on the thermostat, and it says that the house is like 75 degrees. And I was like, well, that's not weird at all, I guess. So I continue my normal conversation with her. She gets home, and it's pretty much like night and day. No, it's like nothing ever happened.
So that room's not normally a similar or like a colder temperature, at least.
No, never. Normally it's around 75, almost. I think one time it hit 80 degrees, and it even tells me the temperature on the baby monitor said it was like 76.
Wow. I mean, when I was in high school, I lived in a room in the house that was just hotter than the rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was no thermostat in there, or like a baby monitor. So in high school, but it was just like a hot room, and I used to call it the door to hell, just out of like, as a joke.
Seems fitting.
But this sounds very different from that.
I mean, again, it's just one of those things where I can't explain it, but it happens. It happened.
Now, do you feel like there is any danger to your daughter?
Well, I always thought it was weird up there to begin with, just because I got kind of a creepy feeling, because I don't like a lot of crawl spaces, and we have like 3 crawl spaces up there, and there's 2 doors and then like one that's like built into the wall. So where her bed sets, it sets in front of that door, and some days the door will kind of like creak open a little bit, and I'll notice it when I go up there, and I'll close it, and it'll be closed all the time, and then it'll just be a little creaked open again. So I mean, honestly, I have no idea.
It's freaky. It's freaky.
It really is. It's spooky. It's spooky as hell.
Well, I wish and pray for like a hedge of protection around your daughter, because I know what that's like. I'm not a father myself, so I can't say I know exactly what it's like to have something like that happen, but I feel like in certain things that I've done, I've invited things into my house that I don't wish. And the thing that scares me the most is that they'll just harm my ferret, which is, it's a small animal.
Oh yeah.
It's nothing like having a baby, but to me, that is my baby.
Right. I mean, even if you don't have kids, I mean, like a dog, cat, ferret, guinea pig,
sure,
what have you.
People call them their fur babies, and I know
exactly.
Some people get really upset if you try to compare that to an actual child, and I honestly get it.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to say that's a real baby that I gave birth to, but
I get where you're coming from. I mean, like that's all you have. That's the one thing that brings you joy.
It is. She literally just walked into the room while you were talking, and I felt that spark of joy as soon as I just saw her prancing around. It was the cutest thing in the world.
But no, up in my daughter's room, we have protective runes.
If you don't mind sharing a little more, what sort of runes are they?
Well, we had just recently, maybe like a couple months ago, we had discovered the Norse pagan religion.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had spent a good time thinking, because we had family that were like, oh, you ought to come to church and do all this fun stuff with us. And I was like, no, if I wanted to sit someone talk in a robe and stuff like that, I'd go rob a store. It's kind of the same thing. Except the only difference is one has more power over my life than the other. So I have these protective runes up there with a salt line around that door. And ever since I put it up there, I haven't really had, besides that weird shadow thing, that's pretty much been the only thing.
That's good. And your daughter hasn't had any more of those sorts of weird pointed out sorts of things, has she?
Well, she still points every now and then, but I rest assured of her that there's nothing there, and then I show her the runes, and she'll take the runes and she'll look at them. She likes to play with them because she's little. She doesn't know what's going on. But what I've noticed her do,
Are they like little stones?
yeah, well, they're like little wood pieces with
Okay.
with markings on them, and she I feel like she knows what they are because she'll sit there, she'll stare at them, she'll hold them in her hands, and she'll examine them, and then she'll just put them back. But she only picks them up one at a time. She doesn't pick up multiple. She picks them up one at a time, which I'm super happy about.
Now, I'm not sure if there's any sort of similarity in that and what I'm about to relate to you, but when I was a little kid, I grew up in a very Christian household, and I was scared to be alone. I was scared of the dark, that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't remember seeing anything completely out of the usual, at least not in my early years. But I was extremely afraid, so I would take stuffed animals and line my bed with them, and felt like I was putting a hedge of protection around myself that way.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that there is perhaps a implicated power that manifests itself as real by doing things like that?
I would think of it more of as like a security net.
Yeah.
Like you're putting, or like you said, like a hedge or a wall. Like you're putting a wall up just to try to help you feel more safe and secure inside your own home. Because things that do go bump in the night can really make you feel like you're not even safe in your own skin.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You feel completely helpless against them, and I think there is something to the idea of the power of prayer or thought manifestation, right? I myself am a Christian, so like when I say something like I pray a prayer of hedge of protection around your daughter, what I'm thinking there is really happening is that my will is sort of manifesting itself in that sort of way, at least in part.
Oh yeah, and I do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong, I really do.
No, I don't think you don't.
No, good. I wouldn't want you to. But with the way that we do it, just me personally, I feel like it's helped a lot more than, because you kind of see like the people on Facebook and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, well, we're praying for you. It's like, oh, I can't wait to print these out and put them in my casket.
Yeah, for every single one of those people, there are probably another 12 that are like making fun of them.
Exactly. Because it's just the world we live in, and it's the internet.
Yeah, it's the internet. That's why I don't have a Facebook account anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I barely use my Facebook account anyway. I only use it for like Messenger and stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of miss Messenger, to be honest.
I wouldn't miss it too much. One of my buddy's accounts got hacked, and people can ping your stuff and message people in your account. It's a whole lot of mess, but back to the other thing. I really do enjoy like the protective ruins and the not ruins, runes. I think they help out a lot, and we haven't, like I said, we haven't really had anything spooky happen for a while. So I'm very thankful for it.
I completely understand why you would be thankful for that, and I'm glad that you have found something that works for you.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty tough in your mortal coil to battle against supernatural evil, or at least protect themselves from it. So God bless that.
Yeah, everybody needs a little something.
I think so.
Yeah, if you don't have that something, get it. You never know when you're going to need it.
So Thomas, are those the experiences and stories that we have for us today?
That's pretty much the main ones.
Well, dude, you were an excellent guest to have on the show, and I'm glad we finally did this, because we've been talking about it for God knows, maybe 4 months now.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm super excited I got to do this.
And I was very happy to talk to you, and I hope people get a lot out of the knowledge and wisdom that you had to share. And main lesson, I think, is Ouija boards are a scary thing.
It's a whole different kind of evil.
It is.
Made by Hasbro.
Made by Hasbro.
Hasbro secretly trying to get children abducted by spirits.
Oh, now I feel really bad because Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, who make Magic the Gathering and D&D, which I see as completely benign, but and probably something like Scrabble too. I'm not sure if they own the rights to that, but you know what I mean. They have a lot of board games. It's been great talking to you, Nightman. I appreciate you coming on the show. Do you have anything you'd like to plug as far as like just self-promotional material or anything like that?
Well, for starters, thanks for having me, man. It's been a joy. I do love sharing my experiences, and it's been a complete fun time. I've enjoyed all of it. As for plugging, I do have a Twitch. I do like a gaming thing. twitch.tv/TerryBird92. I play Rocket League, and I also do like Dead by Daylight, and I got the new Ghostbusters game. I plan on doing the Hogwarts Legacy game when it comes out too. So, yeah.
All right. So if you have any interest in Hogwarts Legacy, the new Ghostbusters game, Rocket League, or Dead by Daylight, Twitch TerryBird92.
Yep.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you for coming out, and we will see you later.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. A big thank you to Thomas again for sharing those stories with us. Now, I did go ahead after the interview and check out the movie Mama. For the most part, I liked it. It's a fictional horror story based in Clifton Forge, Virginia, and it started out strong but kind of lost me towards the end. I think the ending sort of took away the mystique of the ghost story, in a way. But even so, it was worth at least one watch, and I'd recommend if you're interested in such a movie, go ahead and check it out yourself. Now, after watching the movie, I wanted to find the house that Thomas was referencing in his story. And so I researched the filming locations for the movie, and unless the internet has it wrong, Clifton Forge, Virginia was not actually used for the shooting locations in this film. It was filmed in a studio in Toronto, as well as other places in Canada, as well as Spain and Mexico. So perhaps the place that Thomas had his experience wasn't actually in the movie, and was simply just an abandoned house out there in Clifton Forge that, after the movie came out, people associated it with the movie. That could be the case. I don't know for sure. But those are my thoughts. Anyway, everyone, keep an eye out for our Natural Bridge video coming up soon. And until then, we'll see you later. Have a good night. Bye.